All set. And again, welcome. And please, if you are just joining us, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. We'll be putting some links in the chat for you throughout the presentation as well. And I'll give you some information at the end about where you can access our recording and other upcoming webinars. So thanks for being with us today. Alex?
Thanks, Erin. Good morning, everyone. As Erin said, I'm Alejandra Pickett. I'm the Director of Online Teaching here at SUNY Online. I think I know almost everyone. Nichelle, I don't know you. Have we met? Go ahead and put something in the chat, and you can say hi if you want. It's a small, friendly group. Um,
Hi, I am a former student of Karen's and a coworker of Karen's.
oh, nice. Oh, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming. That's awesome. So thanks everyone for joining the Oscar Award Winners Showcase. We are so pleased to have our 2025 Oscar Award winners here with us today. Today we're going to highlight how campuses and practitioners are leveraging the Oscar online course quality rubric and process to strengthen their online course designs and professional development and learner success across their programs and their institutions. So if you're not familiar with Oscar, the online course quality rubric is SUNY's research-informed online course quality rubric with 50 standards designed to support learner-centered design, accessibility. It integrates RSI alignment and really promotes a culture of continuous online course design improvements. The rubric and the tools and the processes are openly licensed. They're freely available and have been widely adopted in SUNY as well as outside of SUNY. So the awards, the SUNY Online Teaching Oscar Awards, recognize excellence in implementing the rubric and process, and the awards celebrate effective, creative, or innovative practices that enhance online course design in some way and support online course design continuous improvement. They're open to SUNY and non-SUNY institutions, programs, and individuals, and nomination and self-nomination are welcome for these awards going forward. Last year was the first year that we conferred these awards. The 2026 awards process is going to open sometime in mid-November, we're planning, and these awards will be presented at the SUNY Online Summit at the end of February in 2026. So today, as I mentioned, we're showcasing the work of the 2025 recipients in three inaugural categories. The Oscar Institutional Excellence Award recognizes institutions that have embedded Oscar into quality assurance at scale, improving online quality, faculty development, and learner success. The Program Level Award, the Program Innovation Award, recognizes programs that apply Oscar in creative or effective ways to improve online course quality delivery and quality. The Individual Achievement Award recognizes individuals who've applied Oscar successfully and advanced its adoption, showing leadership and innovation in online course design. So these awards emphasize innovation and creativity and demonstrate um, um, measurable impact on quality, sustainability, and scalability, as well as collaboration and a commitment to building a culture of continuous improvement around online course design and quality. These are key drivers of equitable, effective online learning experiences. And so we're so very thrilled to be able to recognize folks in our community of practice who demonstrate these qualities. After our three showcases, we'll move to question and answer. Please go ahead and add your questions in the chat as you listen. And we're looking forward to hearing from our three award winners. First up is April, who will share how she has scaled practical high impact Oscar practices across courses and faculty teams. It's really my pleasure to introduce April Higgins, an instructional designer at Delaware Technical Community College, who was the first person to complete the Oscar Trainer certification and the inaugural recipient of the Oscar Individual Achievement Award. Hi, April. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Pickett. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a little presentation. So can you see my slide deck that's there? Okay. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming and thank you for being here. Just like Alex mentioned, you can put any questions for me in the chat and I'll make sure that I address them as I go through this presentation. So I'm April Higgins. I'm an instructional designer at Delaware Tech. And today I'm going to share my experience learning and earning about the SUNY Oscar training certification and how it's really helped me to improve course quality and support faculty collaboration. I've been at Delaware Tech for a little over 5 years, and in my role, I do a lot of different things. So I work on course development projects. I teach courses in our instruction, design, and technology certification program. I lead professional development for faculty, and I also provide educational technology support. So if anybody barges in my office during this presentation, they're probably looking for that support. So don't be surprised if that happens. So just to give you a little bit of a backstory, a couple of years ago, a few of my colleagues at Del Tech adapted the Oscar rubric for our institution. So our team was really drawn to the rubric because the core values and the learner-centered approach align with our vision for courses here at Del Tech. But to make the rubric as useful as possible, my teammates customized some of the criteria and added information on some of our kind of internal processes, but we really kept the essence and core of what Oscar has with all of their standards and really those awesome resources that it provides to us. Another customization was the review process itself. So we reorganized it so that instructional designers do the first review instead of having the course leads do the review. And we did this because it helped us to streamline the process and make sure that we were being consistent with our stakeholders as we were working on these reviews. All right, so that's the backstory. And now here's why I participated in this training certification. I did it for 3 main reasons. First, I wanted the chance to use the original Oscar on actual courses at my institution so I could compare it to our remixed version. So I know that sounds really nerdy, but it was kind of fun for me to go back to the original source and really use that one instead of the one that we had changed. And then second, I wanted to deepen my understanding of best practices in online learning. So doing these quality assurance reviews has always been challenging for me. Like in all of my employee reviews, I feel like the quality assurance reviews were always the most challenging for me because I knew what needed to be done, but I didn't always have the understanding or the rationale to explain why that needed to be done. And I feel like going through this process has really helped me to build those foundational skills and knowledge. And then last, transitioning from K-12 to now being in higher education and as an instructional designer, this certification has given me a nationally recognized credential that I think is going to strengthen my professional standing and help me grow in this role that I'm in. And I also love, as you can see on the screen, that this can be posted right on my LinkedIn profile. So I just think that's something fun about these certifications. So what did I do? I wanted to take everything I could from this opportunity and really learn as much as humanly possible as I went through it. So there were 3 main things. I participated in all 4 of the SUNY online teaching webinars. And then as a result of what I learned in those webinars, I worked on improving 5 courses using Oscar in collaboration with course leads and subject matter experts. And then finally, I updated our collaborative course review materials and resources. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about each one of those. So first, the 4 SUNY online teaching webinars. So participating in these webinars led by Dr. Pickett was an incredibly helpful experience. I felt like I was able to get these real examples and learn and hear examples of how people actually implement these strategies with their subject matter experts and in their courses. So I was able to pick up some ideas that I could bring right back to my institution and start using right away. So it's just like those little tidbits of information that I needed to try to help push that SME from maybe not doing something to being able to put those things into the courses. And then I worked on enhancing 5 courses. So using the OSCQR rubric really gave me an opportunity to look at our courses with a fresh set of eyes. And I try to focus not on making these huge changes, but making some small, meaningful ways to enhance each of the courses that I was working on, with really a focus on accessibility, engagement, and then being student-centered. So the first course I worked on was an accounting course. In this course, we improved the accessibility. We added a course orientation video where the instructor kind of walked the students through what to expect in that course. And then we developed rubrics for discussions and projects. So the accessibility updates were pretty extensive. We worked on these Excel working papers, along with materials like a solutions manual, exam review resources. We just really wanted to make sure that they were accessible to students using assistive technology. And I feel like that's where we spent the bulk of our time, was improving that documentation. And then the second course I did was an internship course. So based on the review of this course, we kind of used what we learned from that internship course in the building of a business internship and now a criminal justice internship course. And what we did with that course is we enhanced the module overviews and the assignment rationale, so kind of explaining why those assignments were important to students and what it was going to help them to do. And then another big piece of it was with the internship having so many different components, like required hours at an agency, class meetings, one-on-one check-ins with the instructors. We really wanted to make sure that we improved the course narrative so students knew what they were doing, when they were doing it, why they were doing it, and then kind of the feedback that they were going to get along the way. The next course I worked on was for our veterinarian technology, and we worked to add more instructor presence. Even though this course was taught a lot in the face-to-face, we wanted to add more of the course narrative into our D2L Brightspace course for students that maybe missed class or they want to go back and review some things that are in the D2L shell. So we worked on accessibility in that course. We also worked on some student engagement strategies, like adding an icebreaker survey. And then as you can see on the screen, we worked on the homepage by adding a custom banner. We did a Zoom widget so students can click right on that Zoom widget and get into their Zoom room. And then we added an instructor information widget. The fourth course was a communication course where we updated the HTML templates in D2L Brightspace. We improved the accessibility of those pages, which was pretty extensive. And then we added a student-led discussion and a place for them to share resources. So another thing we added in that course were attribution information at the bottom of the page to show where all the source of information came from, because that hadn't been there in the past. And we thought that was really important for transparency purposes and then also academic integrity. And then the fifth course was an early childhood education course. Something I learned through this process is about GIFs being in a course, and you don't want to have all that flashing that's there unless students have a way to pause it or turn it off. So we went through that course and removed distracting GIFs that were in it. We added some learner engagements, and then we also created rubrics to clarify expectations. The big thing we did with this course was adding a new discussion forum to allow students to share this proposal website that they were working on and get feedback from one another. So all of these updates across the courses made them more inclusive, structured, and student-centered. And like I said, based on the rubric, I could have done a million things to the courses, but we tried to pick the ones that were like the most high impact and could make the most, I guess, momentum with the students and help to improve the course as much as they could in the time frame that we had. So as a part of the SUNY OSCQR certification program, I had the opportunity to take a really close look at a faculty reference guide for online course reviews. Using what I learned through the program, I updated this guide to make it more supportive for the faculty. So I wanted to take it all the way from how do you prepare for a review and then all the way to the approval. So going through the OSCQR process gave me kind of that foundation and confidence to make updates to this reference. And it really helps me to have a definition for myself for what high quality student-centered online courses look like, and then how we can sort of translate that and make it easier for everyone involved. So there were 4 big outcomes that I would say from me participating in this program. And first is supporting faculty. So the certification gave me practical tools and a research-based framework to support faculty and improve student experiences. I feel like we came out of this with higher quality courses. So the OSCQR framework has supported our efforts at Delaware Tech to establish consistent norms for our course design, like looking at things like module overviews. We've talked together about what should that look like and how can we make it consistent across all of the courses, having rubrics for all of the assignments, and then really digging deep into those accessibility standards and making sure that we are including all students in our course builds. Training others. I feel like I have a lot more confidence in training others using OSCQR and guiding faculty through the review process. As I mentioned before, sometimes there is some reluctance to make these types of changes, but having the resources through SUNY and OSCQR, I can go to those links and show a video or, show an article or just, go through that information to try to justify why those changes are needed. And then the last one is networking opportunities. It's kind of like being here today. So participation in the certification has really connected me with this broader network of instructional designers and online learning professionals. I connected with SUNY via the OSCQR user group on Facebook, and I always like seeing the little posts on there. And then also on LinkedIn, there's a lot of you guys on there, which allows me to stay connected and learn more about what's going on at other institutions, because it's really easy to just do what you're doing in your own little bubble, but I really want to see what others are doing out there. So in conclusion, thank you so much to SUNY Online, Dr. Pickett, Erin Manny, and Delaware Tech for supporting my growth. And I feel like this journey has been a lot more about, not just course review, but thinking about collaboration, those conversations around improving online learning, and really just empowering ourselves and educators to do the right things in their courses. And I'm really excited to continue this work and to help others apply best practices across my institution and maybe beyond at some point. So please let me know if you have any questions. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you so much, April. Thank you for all of your hard work and for the amazing accomplishments, really taking to heart the spirit of OSCQR and applying it so diligently and so well, and for all of the accomplishments that you made in the process. The trainer certification requires that you review 5 courses and then document that and describe your experience in a reflection, and you did an amazing job with all of that, and to see it all described in detail is really, really amazing. So thank you. Very well deserved this award for you. And thrilled that we have now a friend at Delaware Tech and outside of SUNY, and that you continue to connect with us and extend your community of practice, which extends ours as well. So we learn from each other. So really, really appreciate all of your hard work and your accomplishments. Thank you, April. So now Dr. Caldwell is here with us today to discuss how she's embedded OSCQR into her graduate program's coursework to foster authentic real-world learning experiences and practical skills development in her students. Please welcome Dr. Karen Caldwell, Associate Professor and Program Director at SUNY Potsdam and recipient of the OSCQR Program Innovation Award. Thank you so much, Karen, for being with us today to talk about your work.
Thank you, Dr. Pickett, and congratulations again on earning your doctorate. That's a huge task, so well done and well deserved. And also thanks to Erin Maney for all of her hard work. And finally, thank you, April. That was fantastic, and I want to work with you. So one theme that I've noticed so far, and that is true about my experience in really exploiting OSCQR in its system of support and learning is the validity of OSCQR. It's not just a rubric, it's not just a feedback mechanism. It is so many other things to many people. So I think April really showed how many different uses she has had for it and the different sort of ripple effects that have happened. And for me, I want to say that it's really thinking about OSCQR as a bridge uh, between a system of tools and practices that really do lead my students and myself to real life application and relevance through our coursework. So I find it's such a great system in that my students can also get certifications and participate in programs that April just described. So I am going to today start with some context about how I've used it, and then take you through some examples and encourage anyone and everyone to reach out to me if you'd like to borrow some of my instructions, the Word documents that I use for templates for my students, so you don't have to create things from scratch. And of course, I would encourage you to adapt them as you go. So the context for me, again, underlining that validity aspect, is that OSCQR truly is a worldwide system. And I learned about it when I was living and working in the Arabian Gulf, where I started my doctoral studies about 10 years ago. And what's important about that is that I used OSCQR because it was A, free, and two, a valid rubric at the time, because in the work I was doing in education development, we needed that. We needed this external tool and rubric. And so also as part of my doctoral studies, I started to hear a little bit about OSCQR as it's been used and tested and validated in research. So it really started out with a very personal use, but also that bridge between my professional life and my student life. And currently, the context that OSCQR is relevant to me today that I'm going to share with you is within the graduate programs that I teach. And I'm an online faculty fellow at SUNY Potsdam, so I work with faculty to help them become certified to teach online. And that course is the last one that you see at the bottom. It's called Online Pedagogy. And in the asynchronous online graduate programs that I teach in, OSCQR is relevant to the Ed Tech Specialist program, the Instructional Design and Ed Tech program, and our new Advanced Certificate in Learning Design. So that just gives you a bit of context in terms of what I'm about to show you in terms of examples. And the example I want to show you is I'm using backwards design for those folks who are familiar with it. So I start with the end result. And the three that you see on the screen are relevant to all of those contexts that I just mentioned. So it's relevant to faculty and to my students to varying degrees. So by the end of my students' learning experiences, they'll be able to recognize and identify examples of quality standards for online teaching and learning. So they work primarily with OSCQR, but they're introduced to others because I work with students in K through 12 and in industry, and they may need other standards for their field and their sector. So they'll also be able to evaluate existing resources using this set of quality standards. And finally, they'll be able to apply the quality standards to design and develop online education resources. So those are my sort of North Stars when I work with my students. I want them to have all of these competencies related to online quality, and OSCQR fits the bill for all of those. So I will now show you a concrete example and start with the instructions that my students get. And Nichelle, who was one of the best students I've ever had, she took my online education course last fall, and this is what Nichelle would have seen. And this activity was linking a theoretical framework that's really well supported by research called the community of inquiry. And there are three presences in that framework. So I wanted them to use their existing knowledge of those three presences and see if they could find in the OSCQR rubric any evidence of this as a quality component or standard. So they used what they knew of teaching presence, for example, and looked for examples of how in that rubric it is described. And then once they did that, they shared their findings in a discussion forum. So I wanted them to also describe their experience. I always want my students to talk about how easy something was, how difficult, what sparks flew, what itchy brain moments they had, and then share their example and describe it and give evidence. And then I finally end almost every discussion forum with my students sparking conversations with me and with each other because they're taking agency. So that's the set of instructions in the forum. And here is an example of some evidence that I was able to gather for these learning outcomes. Again, this is following backward design. I'm going to focus on that first outcome, which is being able to recognize and identify examples of quality standards. And you just saw the example instructions. So the evidence is a description. The students describe those connections between community of inquiry presences. And some examples that they found for teaching presence, of course, it's RSI, regular and substantive interaction, and that helps us to zoom out from the 50 standards to realize that wrapped around all of those is this notion of RSI and the importance of the instructor being present as part of, their role, but also as leading the other two presences, which are cognitive and social. So speaking of cognitive presence, the students almost universally find standard 30, higher order thinking, as one example of how that standard is validated, recognized, and prioritized. And finally, social presence. I'm hoping this is making your brain itchy. It's instructor presence. And if you read the description of instructor presence, it's really about that social connection and letting yourself be known, your character traits, and personalizing the learning that is part of social presence. So students were able to see that, SUNY has this amazing system of quality standards that not only meet, but in many ways they go above and beyond this theoretical framework, community of inquiry, for them, because they're online learners, and they started to notice, oh, my instructor in this other course does this particularly well. Here's an example. So with that in mind, the learning activities that I designed so the students will create that evidence and achieve that outcome is, again, they explore the community of inquiry first, and they need to be able to define the presences because they're a little bit deeper than what they look like on the surface. Then they explore the rubric and the system itself. We always return to the website, not just the Excel spreadsheet that we have. And then they see examples and concrete illustrations of community of inquiry and OSCQR. I give them multiple examples, not just from my course, but they take other online mini courses, and I'll show them in that mini course. Here's an example, for example, of cognitive presence. So I don't just show them Brightspace examples, but where they can find free online education experiences that also reflect OSCQR standards. So I'm going to give you some more examples of learning activities, and I'm going to learn to spell learning activities right after this session. So as part of the learning that my students do and to bridge their learning into the real world, they are able to pursue authentic learning opportunities and credentials, much like what April just described. And that can be part of their assessment if they like. So in 2 of my courses, online education and learning design, I advise my students to partake in the OSCQR review webinar series. And here I have spring 2025 because this was part of my application, or I'm not sure if I even applied for this program, but this was part of why I'm here today, is because many of my students registered in this and many more are registered currently in this great online learning activity. They also are able to, in my learning design course, they're able to benefit from more SUNY resources, which is the SUNY Brightspace Fundamentals course. So my students actually get registered, though it's normally only open to instructors and staff at SUNY. So they're able to take this course, but then they also are encouraged to describe OSCQR elements that they recognize in this course. So they evaluate this SUNY resource with the OSCQR framework in mind. And a couple of more examples in the online pedagogy course that I teach, which is for faculty. It's only a 4-week course, so by the end of the course, they're able to recognize and identify examples. And that starts with, we use a tool called Perusall, which is available to us within SUNY Potsdam and to you as well if you look into it. But it's a social annotation tool, so they get familiar with it by scrolling through and commenting and asking questions and just sort of reading it together in this social annotation activity. So that's for faculty. And then for my online education students, they actually have an entire project where they select an online education resource, like a mini course, a Coursera course, and they evaluate it using a rubric of their choosing. And I will tell you, almost all of them choose Oscar because of the many reasons that I'm describing today. And so here are the instructions for them to get prepared for that assignment. They choose or they have a look at a course that I share with them already, and then they evaluate it together as a class. So they have that shared learning experience. So that is it for me. I wanted to keep this, I've tried to keep this short and sweet, but I have even more examples this semester of how I'm benefiting from the Oscar framework and the great set of resources and support from Dr. Pickett and Aaron. And I even have students who are pursuing the certification as a reviewer and other levels. And I just had a student today ask if I could give her one of my courses to evaluate so she can qualify for one of those credentials. So she's looking at one of my course shells. And I get an enormous amount of learning from that myself to see it through not only a student's eyes, but a student who is equipped with this real world set of competencies to evaluate online learning experiences. So do reach out to me if you would like any more information. And with that, I hand back over to Dr. Pickett.
Thank you so much, Dr. Caldwell. What an amazing, I mean, and exactly why you won the Program Innovation Award. We're so thrilled to have you give us all of the details of how you've incorporated it both into your graduate course with your students, but also your faculty development work. It's so impressive and a model, I think, that others could adopt and adapt. And thank you for the generosity of sharing your instructions and the how-tos that you have incorporated. And I know I've worked with a couple of your students for the certification, so send them my way. I want to help them get certified if they would like to have that certification. I would love to help them get certified. Very, very well done. And thank you very much. And congratulations again. Very well deserved. So we're moving on now to our third category of the Oscar Awards. This is Doris is here with us to talk about how she developed and led an Oscar Faculty Fellowship Initiative at SUNY Adirondack, which has prepared so far, I think, 2 cohorts of Oscar certified faculty peer reviewers. And this is developed and intended to assist her with a scalable pathway for ongoing online course quality. And I'm sure she's going to describe all of these things in detail when she presents her award-winning program. Please join me in welcoming Doris Ostrander. She's the coordinator of the Teaching and Learning Collaborative at SUNY Adirondack and recipient of the 2025 Oscar Institutional Excellence Award. Hi, Doris.
Hi, Dr. Pickett. Congratulations.
Doesn't get old. It never gets old.
I bet. Well, I heard someone, I think April say it at the beginning, and I'm like, well, of course she's Dr. Pickett. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Anyway, let me share my screen. I'm having a little weird technical kind of a thing where it PowerPoint wants to place my slides on the screen that camera is not on. So I may look like I'm looking away as I'm doing this. I'm going to try not to. So, as Alex mentioned, we've now had 2 cohorts of our Teaching and Learning Collaborative faculty fellowship. This came out of a conversation with our previous Vice President of Academic Affairs and trying to think about how to engage more faculty in our new Teaching and Learning Center, the TLC, as well as engage them in, course quality, thinking about course quality. We do not have where many campuses have required training for teaching online or standardized standardized approaches or templates. We do not have those requirements. We have a lot of academic freedom, and so this was an initial attempt at how do we engage some folks. So let's see, there we go. So my overall goals for the program was improving student outcomes. And that was a big reason why a lot of faculty initially signed up for it, and increasing student engagement. Both of those things faculty cited as one of the reasons that they applied for the program. We wanted to engage faculty in our best practices for course design and teaching, and get people interested in OSCQR and in adapting it for our campus. We also wanted to encourage more faculty collaboration. I think, I don't know if other campuses have experienced this, where many faculty coming back from the COVID shutdown felt a little more siloed. And so, building more community and collaboration was a big piece of this, and establishing the TLC. I have a very nice space for faculty that was underutilized, and kind of establishing that as a faculty development center, and both in terms of conceptually, but also the physical space. And the aspirational goal was that as we developed more faculty to become OSCQR certified reviewers, that whenever we have a new grant-funded project that had substantial online content, that part of the ask for the grant should include having a reviewer look at those materials and give some feedback before the course or the program was finalized. So, and that's an aspirational goal. So the fellowship itself has 4 phases. We start off with an hour and a half workshop with Alec that Dr. Pickett delivers about OSCQR, and this is the formal training, and that's usually on a Thursday. And then following that 2-hour workshop, we meet for 1 week in person. And we focus on the self-assessment piece of OSCQR, the peer review. And as they do that, we also do a lot of brainstorming in, okay, so we've gotten some feedback. Each faculty member reviews themselves, reviews one other person, and is reviewed by someone else, and not the same people, and not by the same within the same disciplines. There's a lot of cross-disciplinary collaboration and brainstorming going on. And then also, like, okay, now you have all this feedback. What do you do with it? I also, as a learning experience designer, do a OSCQR review. And then we do informal mini workshops during the week, things people want to know more about. I'll do a quick session on. And the deliverable at the end of this week is an action plan, looking at all this feedback and what are the top 10 things those faculty members want to work on to improve their course. We asked for feedback at that point about the fellowship experience, what they thought worked, what they didn't, and it's supposed to be about the week. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. And this is that collaborative phase. And one of the key pieces is really understanding that on our campus, because there isn't a lot of not a lot of opportunities for faculty to show each other what they do. Especially in online courses, that there's a lot of vulnerability involved. And so building up trust and respect and community is a big piece of what we do during that week, and making it kind of a safe space for faculty to give feedback to one another and to receive that feedback. At the end of that week with their action plan, they then begin working independently to implement and start that refresh phase of the OSCQR review process. They work at their own pace to complete that action plan. And the deliverable, of course, is the refresh course, and then documentation about that they need for the certification to be an OSCQR reviewer. We also, again, collect feedback about what they learned, kind of aligned with the one-page reflection that Alex looks for. I also asked them for more information about their thoughts about OSCQR, how we could adapt it for our campus, how they would describe it to a peer, that sort of thing. And then the final step, of course, is applying it in the classroom. So teaching the refresh course the next time that it's offered. And what we found as kind of a bonus is that most faculty take what they learned and not just apply it to that refresh courses, but apply it to all of their courses. One of the faculty members from our cohort this summer said that he learned a lot, not just about teaching online, but also teaching in general. And so it's had a huge impact for him. And then we asked for feedback again, their observations about what worked and what didn't once they applied it, and then their next steps for how will they use OSCQR as an iterative process to continue to make continuous improvement to the courses. So that's kind of an overview of how the whole thing works. In summer 2024, we had our pilot. We had 11 applicants from 5 academic divisions. And again, this was focused on the OSCQR process and with the goal of having OSCQR reviewers at the end. From that, 6 people were selected, which is our maximum for the space that we have that we can really, make it workable for. And those 4 people who were selected did, in fact, earn their certification as OSCQR reviewers. We, again, as I said, we collected a lot of feedback. Here's a little bit of that feedback and a lot of, talk about the ability to connect with folks from, faculty from other divisions and getting their feedback and working with them. We asked about the time required. It was 50-50 in terms of satisfied versus very satisfied versus satisfied. We also said unsatisfied, it's lower rankings. No one so far has ranked it lower, below satisfied. And so from summer 2024, our lessons learned were really that this immersive cohort experience worked well, that the opportunity to build relationships was valued by faculty, and making, that they made improvements, as I mentioned, not just to the course that they had to do, but to their other courses. I had anecdotal feedback from one of the cohort members that he's pretty certain that the course refresh improved student retention, and I need to follow up with them and actually get some data on that. He was still working on his course last fall. And so in the middle of the semester, about midterms, the first half of the semester was the old version of the course. The second half of the semester was the new version. And he says normally at midterms, he loses a certain number of students. And that this year, when he did that switch over, he didn't lose anybody. And he had those same students, even though it was online, a lot of them are on campus, would call him out in the hall and say, oh my God, the course is so great now. So he had this really nice feedback. And like we said, he didn't lose students this semester, which was unusual. The feedback that they gave us was to provide coffee. We had coffee the first day, and then we sort of faked it the rest of the week. I now have a coffee maker in my office, a little Keurig. We learned that we really want to announce this as early as possible. We did that so we didn't do as well as early as I would have liked to this coming year. And for myself, making it easier to compile the evidence for certification, that is a lot of work. And so I'm still working on making that easier. And then the big thing is we really need to secure long-term funding for this. So for summer 2025, quick overview, we had 9 applicants from 7 academic divisions. We did make some changes to our application to encourage more people from more different divisions. There was, you got rated a little higher in the application process if you were from a division that hadn't done it previously. And that worked out to be 9 people. We didn't announce it as early as I wanted to. And I think a lot of it is getting the word out as early as possible and giving people a lot of time to think about it, to apply, and to tap into our past fellows to get them to be cheerleaders and to encourage folks to do it. And so we had 5 people that actually have gone through the process. they're in the middle of, they've submitted their work. I've got to package it up, send it to Alex, so that she has those evidence packages, and then they will become, we got one in, and then I got really busy and Alex didn't hear from me for a while, but the other four will be sent soon. And we had a nice distribution this year amongst different academic divisions. And we got a little bit of feedback. One of the questions I asked is what worked well. And again, people were really happy with the mix of the faculty from different disciplines, different levels of experience, it was really, it's an experience that you go through. It's a lot of work that week. And so the community that's kind of built around that does well. And then we asked, what do you want a colleague to know about it if they were thinking about it? And the response was, do it. I really appreciated that this faculty member said he didn't expect very much. I think in other feedback, one of the things he said is it was one of the best professional development experience he had had. So that was very gratifying, and that's not about me, but it's also about Alex, and I think speaks to the program. So changes that we made for 2025, I did revise the application criteria to include things that tapped into campus strategic goals. So things like improving rates of withdrawal and that sort of thing. There were a number of criteria that we added in that, like I said, aligns with strategic goals that I think were really valuable. Improve the online application form to make it easier for me to follow up with people. And we adapted the rubric. We tweaked it a little bit for our campus with some focus on accessibility. And then one of our big issues is faculty with out-of-date content. Like, you can have the best course ever, but if you've still got references to Blackboard, that really needs to be addressed. And improvements, if we're able to do this forward, is, again, I need to streamline the processes and make it easier to handle the logistics and the communications. I did not think of it, even though the fellows in the 2024 cohort had said we would be willing to help out that week in doing the reviews. I totally forgot that and didn't think to ask them to help me do the reviews of the incoming group. So that's something in the future I'm going to do. They would have been willing to do it if I'd given them some notice, and it just didn't occur to me. And then we still have the issue of securing long-term funding. And the thing about the funding is the faculty do get a stipend for completing the program. We have a lot of rules about what we can pay faculty for. We don't pay them to do their jobs, and updating their courses is really part of their jobs. And so the stipend is, even though they go through this whole process, we also don't pay them, to get training. So they get the stipend for earning the certification. And that was a workaround to some of the rules that we have in place. But in order to do that long term, we need funding to do that. And we've been kind of, finding money from here and there to accomplish this. And that's not a long-term strategy. So we'll see if we can do that in the future. Right now, I don't know. It's always up in the air. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. There might be some stuff in the chat. And thank you all very much. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Dr. Pickett. And thank you all for being here and listening to me talk about the program.
Thank you so much, Doris. What an amazing program. And I was so honored to be to collaborate with you on the certification portion of your amazing program, and to brainstorm and talk with you through the process, which actually helped me to codify aspects of the reviewer certification. And it was a wonderful collaborative experience that I want to recognize, as your 6 2024 recipients of the Oscar Reviewer certifications were the first to receive those certifications.
Oh.
So it's
okay.
Over the last 2 years, we've really been working to develop the programmatic elements around Oscar into a cohesive program with multiple elements, and the certifications and the awards and the user group, and all of these elements are all elements of this program. So thank you, Doris. Your model to develop peer reviewers to assist you, to extend your ability to scale the process of course reviews is impressive and adaptable, as are the various things that Dr. Caldwell has done with her students and her professional development activities, as well as April. And it's part of the reason behind the awards themselves, to showcase awesome implementations of Oscar at various levels, but also to share these innovative and creative and effective, impactful ways of applying the Oscar process in various ways that are adaptable by others. So this showcase in part is to showcase your work, but also to demonstrate and to show what you're doing and kind of how you're doing, so that others can see perhaps in their own context how they might be able to adapt and adopt the various aspects of things that you were all doing. So we are really proud to showcase these inaugural Oscar awardees for leading with creativity, impact, and collaboration, and for modeling online course quality practices and approaches, as I said, that others can adopt and adapt. And we have resources and community connections that you can explore. The Oscar Awards page that Erin has been putting links in the chat for, and the Oscar user group as well. And I hope that I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you have any questions, we're a small group. You're easy enough to come off mic and to ask. So I'll just open the floor and see if anyone has the first question or any question. Well, while you're thinking, I, just want to thank everybody for being here and congratulate again our inaugural Oscar awardees. And thank you for sharing your work with us today. I wanted to mention that if you are a campus and are implementing Oscar in any creative or impactful ways, whether at the course, program, or institutional level, we'd love to celebrate your work next year. And we'll have an additional award next year for research conducted with Oscar. And so we'd love to celebrate your work next year. For anyone who's here currently or who might be watching the videotape, keep an eye out for that 2026 Oscar awards call for nominations that's coming out later this fall. And I hope you'll consider submitting your own initiative or nominating a colleague who's making a difference in online course quality. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of time to think of some questions. Andrea, I'm sorry you came in late. Hi, Andrea. Not to call you out on that, but you have to watch the recording, because April and Dr. Caldwell just have incredible projects and programs and initiatives. And I know you're familiar with Doris's work, but watch the video and share it with your IDs.
Definitely will. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, no, I did catch it a little bit at, I think it was the summit this year. There was a session too. And so, yeah, I'm glad to hear the tail end of Doris's presentation today. And I'll go back and review, because I always need ideas. So thank you.
Yeah, they were really awesome. So yeah, good. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming. So has anyone thought of any questions that you might want to ask any of our amazing award winners? They're all so different. Interrupt me, okay, because I'm just filling the space. Each level of these awards at the individual, the program, and institutional level are focused, intentionally differently, to try and capture the wide variety of implementations that are possible with Oscar. As I think it was I can't remember who said it. It's not just a rubric, it's not just a spreadsheet of standards. The website is full of information and resources, and the process of focusing on continuous improvement makes Oscar unique from other online course quality rubrics. And the fact that it's non-evaluative, and the fact that it's free and openly licensed, and able to be adapted to your context, right? So it's not just free, but you can also, if you need to, modify it. And so all of those things, I think, make Oscar unique and able to be implemented in a variety of ways. And so at the individual instructional designer or faculty level, at a programmatic level, so amazingly articulated in Dr. Caldwell's program, and then also at the institutional level to build a cadre of peer reviewers to help Doris really implement course quality. Doris is alone there. She's the director of online education. She's an instructional designer. She's a DLE admin and has new faculty coming on, and experienced faculty who also need support. So coming up with this model has assisted her to be able to spread herself, make herself, able to address quality. So all amazing, implementations of Oscar. So anything, we're coming up on the hour, so I just want to, for anyone who might have any question, go ahead and unmute, pop it in the chat. I appreciate everyone's coming, and from our speakers to the folks who are here with us physically, to anyone who may be watching the video after the fact. Jessica, who are you? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm from Stony Brook.
Hi, Jessica. We've met, right? Have we met?
So actually I came on a little bit after you did the workshop for all of our IDs. So I watched
Okay.
your workshop
Okay,
and
good.
did that. But yeah, I'm kind of new. So I just started in the beginning of August. So I
Oh,
figured
good
I
for
would
you.
hop on and see what
Yeah,
I can see.
welcome. Thank you for coming. That's awesome. I'm hoping to work with you and the rest of your colleagues at Stony Brook to get you certified, and really anyone else who's here. Hector, if you're not certified, I want to certify you. And Andrea, I want to certify you and all your IDs, right?
Yes.
And Karen, love working with you and with your students on anything. And Jen, you're still there. Hi. I haven't seen you in a million years, but anyway, if you're not certified, Jen, let's get you certified, and any of your colleagues that would like to do, if you would like to do that, I would love to help you. So yeah. So thank you all. I, really appreciate you all. And thank you to Erin and to Aline and to all of our speakers and to anyone here and anyone watching. Really appreciate, you supporting the community. We're better together. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to all of our presenters and our attendees. I popped a bunch of links in the chat, so I hope you'll revisit that. You can get a link to the recordings on our YouTube channel, and that's just at SUNY Online Teaching. And you can view our webinars link for upcoming sessions. And on the webinars link are also the upcoming sessions for our Oscar series. We will be offering it again in the spring. So if you missed the first two, those will be coming up again. So again, thanks for everyone. Have a great day.